On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino, we got some catching up to do. Legal problems for OU football, the latest on a new arena in Norman. We celebrate the four-peat for OU softball. We give you our winners and losers of the week. Please download and subscribe to the podcast. Rate it 5 stars and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right, our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Wednesday, June 19th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack, blackjack match, roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options in the month of June, all you got to do is visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, simply the best. Welcome back, Ted Lehman. We're back, baby. Let's go.
Good to be back. It's good to be back. It felt like a long break, so it's awesome because we've had some things happen over the last, I don't know, 10 to 14 days.
Yeah, we've got a lot to cover. Now, full disclosure, I'm battling a bit of a stomach bug. If I get through, this is how bad it was, Ted. I was on the golf course, was playing golf with Creed Humphrey and Lane Johnson, and I basically turned to him. I was like, "Boys, I gotta go. I'm done." We got through 3 holes. I was like, "You guys keep playing. You guys have a great time. I'm going home." And luckily, I made it in home just in the nick of time for things to come out from both ends. So working through it, man. Working through it. My #1 goal of this podcast is to just not poop myself. So here we go, baby. Let's roll.
That's good. That's good. I would say the only good thing is uh it didn't happen while you were on vacation. You
That's a great point.
you don't want to be vacationing while battling the stomach flu.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I've made it through the roughest part. So speaking of rough parts, what a stupid attempt at a transition. We always start with OU football stuff. And Ted, this time of year, the saying, no news is good news. It's a saying for a reason in the summer.
yes.
And OU football got some bad news over the last couple of weeks. So we received the podcast Instagram received a direct message at 3:38 a.m. on June 1st. This person wanted to remain anonymous, but said, "Hey, Deion Burks just got arrested by Oklahoma Highway Patrol for DUI." And I looked at it the next day and went, "I really hope that's not true." But that's an awfully specific direct message to send at an insane time. Just left it alone. And well, Ted, unfortunately, it was very true.
All I can really say to that is thank you, officer. I'm guessing the 3:38 a.m. DM. Appreciate the heads up. That maybe was taken directly off the radio and into the DMs, perhaps. I don't know, but appreciate the heads up. Yeah, that's not what you want, obviously, and most importantly, I'm just happy that nothing worse happened out of this, right? Even though this is not a good result, you never know how horrible the results could have actually been. So, um, I'm curious to see how, like, what you see internally from this. Like, what do we see during the season? Perhaps I don't know. It's interesting whenever it's from a transfer portal guy where you don't have like an extensive history of kind of how they handle themselves and carry themselves. Now, everything that I've heard or has been passed on is that handles his business, shows up excited, ready to work every single day. And if that's true, then I guess punishment or how these things are handled is often mainly dependent on what type of person the player has been. Like, what's their track record? Is this a one-off event, or is this a player that you're constantly chasing around and trying to get them to workouts and get them to class and make sure everything is up to speed? Like, it just kind of depends. And if what we've heard is true about Burks, then I would expect that he's a guy that they haven't had to babysit very much. But I guess I just don't know.
Right. Just everything we've been told is just a ridiculous amount of positive energy, has one of the best work ethics on the team, and unfortunately just made a really stupid, selfish decision. I mean, you look at the police report, and it's one thing to go take some shots at a club and drive home. It's another thing to take some shots at a club and drive home like you're Jeff Gordon.
Yeah.
I mean, both are stupid. Don't get me wrong. But to be weaving in and out of traffic on I-35, going 25 miles an hour over the speed limit, that's really stupid. Incredibly
Yeah.
stupid. And it's just, you're right, man. It's just he's lucky nothing really bad happened.
Yep.
And he'll learn a lot from this. And this is a guy, let's be real. He is going to be a massive piece of this football team. I think the argument can be made. He is the best player on the team. So when I saw this all start coming out, I was really, really disappointed because, man, he brought so much life to that offense and to the
Yeah.
program just with his attitude and everything during the spring. And I'm hoping this incident and kind of the fallout from it doesn't take away from that. But man, it's a really stupid thing to do. Weaving
Yeah.
in and out of traffic. I mean, that's dumb, man. Super dumb.
Yeah. No, it is. It is.
Also,
And
these guys are making money now.
yeah.
That's what makes it even stupider. Okay, I get it. 15, 20 years ago, broke college guys still drinking and driving. There's no excuse, but okay. These guys are making a lot of money. Get a driver, man. Split the costs with a couple of your other guys that are making money. Get a driver. It's it's well worth it. It's way, way cheaper than getting a DUI. I know that.
And it's way easier than it's ever been. Uh, you know, there was a time whenever if you had to call a taxi and there was basically like one taxi in Norman, one person, uh, A1 taxi, I think is what it was. It was not easy. Now with all the services you've got, I mean it's easier than it's ever been, and everyone knows that. Okay, but here's the thing. I just hope it's a one-off event, right? Because okay, you give a guy some leeway for making a mistake. Um, you're thankful that things didn't end up much worse than they did, but one mistake, okay, we can figure things out. But especially with the importance that you pointed out, like, if I had to hand like this should be the most productive football player on the offense, perhaps by a large margin. And if again, we don't know the track record, we don't know much of the history, but if this is something that you've really got to be worried about, you feel like the production of your offense is kind of hangs in the balance of the off-field decision making on a guy. And that maybe that's making too much of it, but just hopefully it was a learning experience and we don't have to he doesn't have to go through this again.
So typically when something like this happens, in a college football program, there's a discussion about it, right? Everyone on the team ends up knowing. Like, hey, you heard that Deion got a DUI, right? There's a discussion. It usually, and for Burks, usually when that happens, the school directs you to an attorney to help you handle all of the legal ramifications that come with a situation like this. But also, there's typically a team-wide discussion about it, whether it is just players only or there's a team meeting with the coaches and just say, hey, guys, we can't do this shit. Stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it. And well, what happens 2 weeks later? Makari Vickers gets arrested for DUI and unlawful possession of marijuana. Like, how does that happen? That's the thing that when I saw that, when you know Burks just got a DUI and then you still make that decision, I mean, do you not learn from the example? That's crazy to me, dude. Crazy to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's frustrating. Now, here's the thing. Hopefully this little cluster of events is not something more indicative of, like, maybe you've been getting away with stuff and now there's just a couple of things that have surfaced. I still feel like the team has been in a pretty good place. Like, we haven't had hardly anything since Venables took over, and really it's been a while, even before that. But you haven't had many incidents. It feels like the locker room's been in a really good place. You've had a couple of these things, and you're right. It's almost like you feel like when something happens, there's a heightened sense of awareness, and then over the weeks and months as things pass, and it's been a while since an incident has happened, maybe people let their guard down, start to stray a little bit. But like when it's right after something happened, it should be fresh on the mind that maybe I shouldn't jump in the vehicle right now because I know what just happened recently, which this should be a thought anyways, obviously, but still should be fresh on the mind. So I just I don't think it's anything to, at the current time, to get too worried about. These things happen. This isn't something that just happens at Oklahoma. You don't have to look very far. You could probably pull up any of your opponents on the schedule this year and really dig into what's gone on in their offseason and probably found some things. But you just hope this isn't indicative of what may be happening more throughout the summer and as you get into the season, because while I really like what we've got going on right now, it doesn't mean that we're in a position to be able to absorb suspensions and whatever else could come down the pipeline if you got bad behavior. So we're going to need all hands on deck, and things are going to happen. Players are going to fall by the wayside, whether it's injury or whatever, but you would like to eliminate all of the needless losses that you can, which are just poor decision making. I mean, you just, like, if you're ultimately going to really be pushing for a championship type of season, these distractions are something that are really taken away from the goal.
Just take an Uber. I mean, it's not that complicated. And the Burks and Vickers situations, clearly both guys made terrible decisions, but Burks is going to be a guy for this team. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's just no doubt about it with how talented he is, how explosive he is. Vickers, I mean, it's a really competitive situation at corner. The argument can be made it's the most competitive position battle on the entire football team, with Woody Washington, Gentry Williams, Kenai Walker, Des Malone, Jacoby Johnson. Like, you've got a bunch of guys that are going to be battling for those two spots. This is not how you help yourself in a position battle. And I know that's not the main issue here. I totally understand that. But just from a football perspective, going out there and getting a DUI and having weed on you while you do it, that's not how you win the trust of the coaching staff. Okay. Not doing
No,
yourself any favors doing that.
right. Yeah, it's all part of the evaluation process, right? It's if the battle is, let's assume you have two players that are the exact same, and it's a tough decision as to who's going to get the most playing time of the two. Well, you have to go with a guy you trust more and won't surprise you on, a Sunday morning or Monday morning during the season because something has happened out celebrating a big win. So that's part of the evaluation process. You're right. It's no way to find yourself on the better end of a tough position battle or anything where you're trying to find more playing time whenever it's hard to come by. Not the way to go about it. And let me just be clear. I say this as a person who has made a ton of mistakes. Okay.
Same.
And I'm offering this up as not uh it's just having been there, make the right decisions, right? Though it's we wish everyone could listen to the people before them and take the advice 100%. We'd never have any problems in the world, but um it's just kind of how it goes. So I'm not saying this as if I've never made any bad mistakes. Obviously I have. It just, you know, look out for one another. If you have an opportunity as a teammate to steer someone out of a bad decision, do it.
I think that's very well said. Now, they put a statement out that this will be addressed internally. That's going to be painful. It's going to be a painful addressment via Jerry Schmidt. I would assume. I got to imagine that it will be addressed in physical misery. It's kind of where we'll see if anything comes of it as far as missing games. Like Brent Venable says, hey, yeah, if you get a DUI, you have to miss a football game. I would have no problem with that. Actions, consequences. I would have zero problem with that if that's what they decide to do. But I know this, those guys I don't know what it's been, what the punishment has been with Schmitty, but I know it's been miserable. It just has to have been.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I know a long time ago, it definitely would have been miserable. I don't know like what you can and can't do anymore, or what you can and can't get away with, I guess is maybe a better way to phrase it. Um, yeah, I could imagine the old Stairmaster. They had to lube that sucker up, make sure it's ready to roll because it's probably been working overtime over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, I addressed internally. That's typically right where your head goes. And you're right about the missing a game. It's what the non-conference schedule was created for. Okay, that's why you play the soft non-conference schedule early in the year. It's because who knows what type of off season you had. That's why you got to schedule some of those games. And it's probably what your non-power five schools lobby for, right? It's like we gotta have these games at the beginning of the year. It's funny.
It's disappointing.
Yeah.
And I do wonder, I could see Venables being a guy that punishes the entire group instead of just the individual. If you want to create some serious peer pressure to not do dumb stuff, you punish the entire group for these guys' dumb actions. There is no quicker way to get an entire football team angry and try to get everyone in line to that. But I don't know.
Yeah, I have personally witnessed um something being addressed internally that would result in individual punishment for the player, position punishment, um, what side of the football you're on punishment, and perhaps even an entire team punishment, all rolled into the same type of situation. So yeah, you can really attack this thing from several different angles if you were so inclined.
Did you so we had the Burks situation, the Vickers situation. Did you see that report that News 9 had? And it was at the same club that Burks drove home from. And nothing has come of it yet, but that report was a bit unsettling. I guess a Cleveland County judge denied a protective order filed by a woman who claims an OU woman or an OU player spit in her face outside that nightclub and then slapped her in the face. I, dude, if any player for Oklahoma does something like that, they need to be gone. So I nothing has come of this yet, but as a former player that cares about this program deeply and its reputation, I don't want guys like that playing for us ever. So we'll see if anything comes of it, but you cannot have people like that around. And I said the same thing. I know everyone always refers to the Mixon thing, right? I said kick him off the team. He's an incredible football player. I don't care. You do stuff like this. I don't want you to wear Sooners across your chest. I just don't. That's just kind of where I'm at with it. But we'll see if anything comes of this. News 9 didn't release the player's name because he hasn't been arrested. So we'll see if that develops. But that was the DUIs are obviously incredibly disappointing. But physically assaulting a woman outside of a club, that's really disappointing as well. So I just hope that there's that's not true. But geez,
Right.
man.
Well, I'll say this, and maybe we'll get some people comment on it that know more about it than I do, but it feels telling that a Cleveland County judge denied the protective order, because I think from what I've heard in the past, a protective order is almost always granted. Like the bar for filing and granting a protective order is really, really low, typically, I think. So the fact that it was denied could be telling. I don't know. But that's definitely something to monitor. And if we've learned anything in the past from what's happened at OU previously or anywhere else in the country for that matter, if that did happen and that was an OU player, I'm sure we'll be hearing more about it.
Yeah. Or we'll notice that someone's no longer on the football team and we'll be able to put 2 and 2 together.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunate news on the football front during our vacation period, Ted. I hate having to talk about this stuff, but I mean those are the biggest headlines for OU football over the last couple of weeks. I hate
They
it,
are.
man.
They are. And it's relevant names, obviously. I mean, as you mentioned with Burks, the argument could be made that he could be the best or most productive, however you want to classify it, player on the team this coming season. Highly relevant to the wins and losses for the Sooner football team with his availability for sure.
No doubt. All right, we got some more OU related stuff to get to, including celebrating a four-peat. But first, Love's Travel Stops is now offering a nationwide 10-cent per gallon discount on gas and auto diesel. Just download the Love's Connect app and scan your barcode at the prompt on screen and watch that price drop 10 cents per gallon. Across the country, the Love's Connect app unlocks exclusive deals and can help any traveler plan their route or meal on the highway. So before you hit the road, Be sure to download the Loves Connect app to save 10 cents per gallon and experience the country's best highway hospitality at Love's Travel Stops. Love's also has you covered if you forget your phone charger or headphones with their expanded mobile to go zone. And of course, don't forget to grab yourself some of that delicious Java Amore.
And celebrate with a Schooner All-American Ale, the official craft beer of OU Athletics from Coop Ale Works. Named after the iconic Sooner schooner that races across Owen Field after an OU score, you can join in on the celebration with an ice-cold beer from Coop Ale Works. You can enjoy it at the Palace on the Prairie, at OU athletic events, at the bar, at the tailgate, and in the comfort of your own home. For more information on Schooner All-American Ale, visit schoonerale.com. Must be 21 to purchase. Please drink responsibly. Schooner All-American Ale, the taste of game day.
And we love Simple Modern. Simple Modern is an Oklahoma owned drinkware company and #1 drinkware sales leader on Amazon and Target. This summer, Simple Modern launched its Summer Shop, where they drop new and unique drinkware options every other Tuesday all summer long. Now you can get your own limited edition version of the extremely popular 40-ounce Trex in designs you won't see anywhere else. And even better, Simple Modern exists to give generously, donating 10% of all profits so you can know you're helping better Oklahoma and beyond with every purchase. Check out the Summer Shop and all their amazing products at simplemodern.com. Ted, we had some developments when it comes to the new arena, the new entertainment district in Norman. You are our commercial real estate expert.
Huh.
So give me all of your thoughts. How are you feeling about it? Good, bad, so? Like where are you at with the possibility of this new arena being built in Norman?
I don't feel good about it.
Dang it.
It's going to be up to the Norman City Council, which it's past what the planning commission, stuff like that. I don't think anyone's ever been worried about passing stuff like that. It's really pretty much always come down to the city council, and there's been a lot of people that are just unwilling to move on it, because of different viewpoints on what the tax increment financing and stuff like that, and how all the dollars will or will not make sense. So I'm hopeful. I think it's, I think it could be just a huge boost to the basketball program. Obviously, you've heard Porter Moser talk about it. You heard Lon Kruger talk about it. A couple years before he left. So we've been dealing with this thing for a long time. My hope is that it passes. I think it would be great. Think it would bring an influx of commerce to the city of Norman. I think that when you've got one of the major arteries in the entire nation that runs right through the middle of your town, and you build an entertainment district, it's a great way to get people that are driving from Texas or Kansas or from all over the United States to stop in and spend money in your city. So it's not just taxing on the local people. It's an opportunity to drive revenue from out of state, people that come in and spend money in your city. So I think there's a lot of good things that could come of it. But frankly, we've been doing this dance for, I don't know, it's got to be getting close to a decade, 8 years, maybe 7, 8 years. And for those keeping track, I don't have an inflation calculator at my disposal right now, but if you want to take, let's call it $500 million, give or take a couple $100 million for the development of this area, think about what the price tag would have been 7 years ago compared to what it is today. And I'll tell you right now that it hasn't remained the same. To build the same exact property, the same exact venue, all of the stuff today costs dramatically more than it would have had you passed this thing in the very beginning. And we'd be in it, and it would be churning revenue for the local community at this point. But we've kicked the can so far down the road that at some point, I don't even know if the dollars and cents like even work anymore because of how expensive some things have gotten to build. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with it. Um, I I hope that it passes. I think it could be great for the community and for the basketball program and for a bunch of other people. But I guess at this point I've been beat down to a point where I don't waste much time really thinking about it because it's been so long and we've gone through these rounds so many times and have really made no ground. So unfortunately, that's how I feel about it. There may be other people that are way more optimistic and maybe they'd be better to comment on it.
Look at what you've done to him, City of Norman. Look at what you've done to him. Just beat down. Now, the other question I have is, let's say they don't do it. Then what? What, you renovate the LNC? You put money into that? Like, is is that the plan? That's where, if it doesn't happen and you don't sound particularly optimistic that it's going to happen, then what? That's where I'm at with it. Is if you don't do it, then it's the damn plan, man.
Well, you renovate the LNC and you see that great real estate right there that's currently owned by the OU Foundation will turn into retailers, you know, and well, there's something to be said about that. That's fine, but there ain't going to be an arena there. There's not going to be something that's driving massive revenue, that's getting people from outside the city of Norman to pour into your community on a weekly basis with concerts and all kinds of different events that you can host there, and obviously basketball. It's going to be just stores, probably.
Yay.
That's what we need,
I
right?
Dude, I was really hoping you'd be more optimistic about it happening.
Well,
But I
I'll
think
be
you're
honest.
just
Like, I have pulled myself out of the loop. I I, I got tired of spending
it's
any emotional.
it's better for your blood pressure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're getting to an age where you don't want to be
Well,
too worked up all the time, you know?
and I don't know. I'll tell you this. I don't know what Josie, like, if this doesn't pass. I don't know what Josie would do. What I do know is there are a bunch of places that are dying to be able to have the opportunity to build an arena for OU basketball in their city. Like, now, I'm not saying that it would ever happen, but there are plenty of municipalities that would be very interested in doing it. That doesn't mean that OU would partner, but I know there's other options out there. I don't know if we'd ever pursue any of them or not, but it's at least on the table.
It'd be really weird if OU basketball was playing in Moore or Oklahoma City. It would just be very, very strange. It's not like that doesn't happen across the country and at some schools though. I
Yeah.
It's not what I want. I want Norman to get this done and for it to turn into one of the coolest, basketball, gymnastics, whatever setups in the country. But I just, at this point, I'm kind of with you. I'm not very optimistic. I kind of just at the point where, hey, I'm not going to believe it until I see it.
Right. Yeah. When I see some Caterpillar equipment roll onto the site, that will be time for me to get excited. But until then, I guess I will watch from a distance.
Let's let's get happier. Let's talk about softball. Football guys talking softball. Ted, you completed the 4P. Is there anything better for an OU fan than beating Texas to win a national title. I mean, it just makes it so much better, especially with the fact that Texas got them in the regular season. That fan base celebrated it pretty hard. And then for the champ series to roll around, for OU to smack them around in both games, bats came alive, Ted. It was so much fun to watch. So satisfying. Like, then you add that the Sooners were led by Oklahoma State's best player the last couple of years. That's just a little extra wrinkle to it, but it was incredibly satisfying to watch Patty Gasso's team get their fourth title in a row, just beating up on Texas. It just brings a smile to my face.
It's got to be one of the few instances ever in any sport where you can win a championship and directly drag your two rivals at the exact same time, right? I mean, I don't know that that's ever happened before on a scale like that. And you're right. You know, the way the season played out was just beautiful. Um, Now, I'm not saying that I'm glad they lost the series down in Texas, but it set the stage for an awesome national championship to where OU was able, they'd won the previous three, and they were able to come in as, I guess, at least on paper, the underdog, with Texas being the overall number one seed and hadn't lost. They played dominant all the way through the tournament. Oklahoma obviously took the loss to Florida, had to battle. And I mean, they didn't limp into the championship, but I don't know that anyone was just I took flack on my radio show for saying that I thought OU was going to win it in two. Um, People said I was smoking crack, right? Which was great. I thought
Smoking
that was,
crack. Wow.
yeah, I thought it was
Okay.
funny. But the way it played out could not have been better. It's just a reminder. Yeah, Texas, you had a great season, talented team, have played really well, but we won the last three for a reason, not going quietly, and they shoved their nose in it.
There's no doubt. Now, as much as I enjoyed, now let's not forget Jada Coleman's walk off against Florida. That's that may be the biggest play of the entire run there at the Women's College World Series.
Yeah,
That gets them into the Champ Series, and then they beat up on Texas. But Kelly Maxwell in Game 1, another just really solid outing. But I frankly enjoyed the hell out of the 5 pitcher fiasco in Game 2 because it really just felt like Patty Gasso completely outcoached Mike White in that situation, just throwing that curveball at him. I didn't see it coming, but it worked exactly the way that she wanted it to. And it just, that made it even better. It was like this chess move that no one saw coming, and it worked flawlessly. And it was like, yeah, that's why she's the best. She's the best at what she does. She's one of the best coaches in all of sports. And it was just like she was running circles around him with what they did in Game 2. Dude, I love that so much.
it was awesome, and I'm sure you saw the tweet. And it was just a Texas fan that some people had picked up on, and it made the rounds, and it was basically like, I hope everyone, and it was, I think I said this Texas fan, I hope everyone realizes that Patty Gasso is pitching her third, fourth, and fifth best pitchers right now just to prove a point. And I don't know if that was the case or not, but it definitely felt that way. And I mean, it honestly felt like it wasn't really close between the two teams. And maybe that's just the advantage of whenever you go into a series like that, you've got massive crowd there supporting you. You've won the previous three. You're loaded with seniors who have been in those big moments over and over. And Texas had all this build up, and then the moment showed up, and they got a little tight, perhaps.
Mia Scott just wandering off the bag is one of the weirder things I've seen on a sport's biggest stage. Tying run was on third, right? I mean, that was What was that, because it's played in Oklahoma City and not somewhere else? Is that the excuse? Like, that was one of the more bizarre things I've ever seen
Yeah, and
from a
I
really,
get
really good player.
really good player. I don't know if they had discussed it previously, but and I saw some people mention this, trying to force a rundown between first and second to hopefully perhaps generate a run from the player on third, but poorly executed if that was what she was trying to do. I don't it looked bad, like as it tied into some of the stuff that she had done leading up to that moment, which I guess that's how she played. I really didn't have a problem with it, but yeah, that looked like trying to do way too much in the moment. But that's what Oklahoma forces people to do, to play outside of what they typically do. They rush things, they rush throws, they try and create plays that aren't there, and Oklahoma makes them pay.
Thrilled for the seniors. Four seasons, four national titles. I mean, just
Crazy.
insane. But I'm really happy for Kelly Maxwell. Made an extremely tough decision doing what she did. But you go out there, you pitch your team to a national title, you win most outstanding player. It has to feel like it was all worth it. That has
Yeah.
to be such a satisfying feeling for her, such a vindicating feeling for her. I was really, really excited for her. And she really stepped up for him in the Women's College World Series. I think the argument can be made. She's the key reason why they were able to get it done. So I was just, to make the decision she made, to receive some of the blowback she did. And let's be real, I think a lot of it was justified. But to go out there, accomplish the goal, just pretty awesome.
Yeah, and she had her best stuff when they absolutely needed it. I mean, we can admit, we can say that she was up and down some throughout the season. Now, she was never bad, but she had some command issues at times. She had given up some home runs at times. And it had the Oklahoma fan base wondering, like, what do we have the elite pitching? Are we going to have it whenever we need it? And as soon as the postseason showed up, she dialed in and was her absolute best that she was all season. And there's something to be said about that whenever you can rise to meet that demand. And she did big time. And I was really interested in, I guess not surprised really, but I just thought it was, Coach Gasso and some of the other the players really talked about how big of a deal they thought it was, even leading up to it, for Kelly Maxwell, to be able to get that opportunity. So, I mean, that was a big focus, and it had to feel awesome for her to go out there and cap that thing off. And the other girls as well, the seniors. I mean, Jada Coleman, Tiara Jennings, 4 national championship, 4-time All-American. The accolades, I you could look at the hardware that she has and make the claim that she's the greatest softball player ever. It's
Right.
crazy with what all she's accomplished, and we just kind of take it in stride here, like, oh, no big deal. A 4-time All-American, won 4 straight national championships, and I'm glad she's going to be a part of the coaching staff. That's pretty cool as well.
Right. Yeah, no, it's normal. Totally
Yeah,
normal.
totally
No,
normal.
I just, you look at it, 4 in a row, 6 titles in the last 8 seasons. I mean, it's a ridiculous amount of sustained excellence. It is a dynasty by every definition, every metric you look at. And this is, I say it before every season. I'm just going to have to see them lose before I bet against them. That's just where I'm at with it. They are just an unstoppable force. And it's been so good for the university, so good for the state, like everything. It's so much fun to watch how big of rock stars these women have become here in the state of Oklahoma. It deservedly so. They are awesome.
Yeah, and it's really it's the sport is growing, obviously. The Women's College World Series, the ratings it generates are excellent. There's a lot of people that are fans of the sport, and it's I'm sure it's growing at the youth level and everything as well. So it's kind of hard to gauge like what it's like everywhere else, but I think one of the main reasons that they continue to feed the beast and have the dynasty is I honestly believe, and again, I don't know, I haven't seen everywhere, but it feels like it's treated differently at Oklahoma than it is anywhere else. As far as like the relevance, like the the amount of investment from the university into the sport and the attention that they get. Like, I don't know how many schools broadcast all the games, like have the players on, talk about it in the local media as much as Oklahoma does. I just don't think that happens anywhere else. And that really feeds into the success that they've had.
Which is why they need to move it somewhere other than Oklahoma City. What how
Good
was the
luck.
chatter? I didn't really pay attention to it. I watched the games, but didn't really pay attention to the discourse afterwards. How loud was the they gotta move it, they gotta rotate it chatter this year? Louder than normal, about the same, a little quieter. Where are we at?
I think it was I think it was about the same.
Okay.
There was, your typical stuff leading into it, but I feel like after it was like, okay, I just don't think it matters anymore because I don't think I saw any of the clearly it needs to be moved from Oklahoma City after the championship, now leading up to it, because they thought, well, this is going to give Oklahoma an edge. But they, after everyone saw the championship series, it's like, we could play it on the moon. I don't think it matters.
Well, uh, do you think the rest of the softball world's prepared if Nigel Kennedy ends up picking OU?
I
How are you
think,
ever going to replace Maxwell and the other arms? Oh, maybe with the best pitcher in softball.
man, there's a couple of things about this that I think are really interesting. She, there could not be a bet. It is the best time in the history of the sport to be a free agent, so to speak, right? Because you've got a sport that's growing in popularity. You have NIL now available for college athletes. You have Oklahoma, who's an absolute dynasty. And everyone in the sport knows Texas, Florida, Florida State, Tennessee, some of your top teams out there. Everyone knows if Oklahoma gets Kennedy, it's game over. It's over. Everyone knows that. So the price tag for the NIL situation, like if you're a softball coach if you're a coach at Florida, or so, you have to go to the AD and be like, if we want to invest in this sport and we want to be able to keep pace, like I know dollars and cents wise, it may not make sense to us as far as, softball being a revenue producer, but if we want to grow this around here and be competitive, we're going to have to throw some dollars at this, because if she goes to Oklahoma, then I I don't know what you do. And if you're Oklahoma at the same time, it's kind of the same way. It's like, can you win a championship without Kennedy? I think you can. But if she goes to Florida or she goes to Texas, like it's like, you know, I don't know. It's a fascinating time in the sport to watch all this play out. It really is.
It's sounding from my sources, it's sounding like UCLA is also heavily in the mix
I can imagine.
for her, but I'm just going to stay calm. I'm sure she will take her time, weigh all her options, and we'll see if she ends up in Crimson and Cream. If she does, oh man, the softball world is gonna melt. It's people are gonna talk about is how bad it is for the sport. Blah blah blah. But listen, I don't care. I don't care if she ends up on our squad. I'm gonna celebrate like hell. It's gonna be awesome. But I don't know.
I,
I don't know what's
yeah,
gonna happen.
I'll tell you what I think is really cool. She, I don't know how Stanford, if I know, like, watch Stanford sports, it's, there's a lot of nerds out there. I don't know how big into sports they are. Okay. Um, UCLA, I can't speak to that as much. In Texas and Florida, I don't know. But from what I've seen, Oklahoma softball players are famous in Oklahoma. They're superstars. And I would bet that Naja Kennedy is more recognized, more famous in Oklahoma than she is anywhere else in the country. I bet she could walk across Oklahoma's campus today and more people talk to her, point her out, take pictures, recognize her, notice her than on Stanford's campus.
I
And
completely agree with that.
that is a big factor. If you are her and you show up in Oklahoma City Airport to come for a visit, there's no way she walks through that airport without people coming up to her and recognizing her. There's no way. Same thing if you go, they take her out somewhere in Norman. It's like she is a star here, and she plays all the way across the country. That you can't replicate that anywhere else.
Come on, Naja. We already know she looks good in that color, right? Some very similar red there for Stanford. Come on. I it's going to be interesting to see what she decides. But one of my favorite things is OU's fan base is so dialed into this. I don't even know. It seems like the fan base is more excited about this than getting like a big time football transfer.
I know.
It's like the
That's
discourse around it that we are. Softball has become. I mean, clearly, nothing's ever going to surpass OU football with the fan base. It's not going to happen. But the investment, the emotional investment in softball from this fan base is, I mean, it's getting way up there, man.
it's like it's it's our fan base's outlet. Like, the football fandom feels like a job right now, you know, and the softball fandom just feels like the party. It's our outlet to stress-free championships. It's what we need in counter to our football fandom at the moment.
We earned this, man. We
We
earned
earned it.
this.
We earned it.
Let's finish up with our winners and losers of the week. But first,
All you grill masters, listen up. Didier Ranch delivers premium quality beef that is 100% raised in Oklahoma right to your front door. Go to didierranch.com, DIDIER ranch.com to order one of their premium quality beef boxes and use promo code Oklahoma15 for 15% off your order. Filet, ribeye, New York strip, sirloin, steak burgers, they've got it all, and they ship anywhere in the continental U.S., and Oklahomans can get deliveries in just 1 to 2 days. The only thing better than having a lot of premium beef on the O&D line is having premium beef delivered right to your front door. Didier Ranch, tradition tastes better.
and head to the garage for hand smashed patties, butter toasted buns, and some ice cold beer. It's the perfect spot to watch any big game. With all garage locations being open to 10 p.m. or later every night, it is the go to late night spot. Visit eatatthegarage.com to find a location near you and order online from the garage in your neighborhood.
Attention business owners, you need Insurica in your life. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica is able to customize programs by accessing the latest information from many insurance carriers. They compare and contrast coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. Your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and take back control of your total cost of risk. If your business wants to be best in class, connect with Insurica at insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com.
As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the week?
Pat McAfee. As of right now, unless something has changed, he has not signed on yet for the game day broadcast coming up this fall, which is coming around the corner really, really quickly.
Yeah.
And he is in a perfect position. He can demand a massive amount from ESPN. He's only been on there a brief period of time. And while I don't think he's everyone's cup of tea necessarily, I think it's hard to argue that he is by far the entertainment aspect, the most interesting, the personality. He brings a lot to that broadcast. And the fact that they may not be able to get him back could be catastrophic for them. If I were Pat McAfee, I wouldn't go back. I would do it on my own. He's got a huge YouTube following. I think he could generate his own game day, call it whatever you want, and go on the road and pick games however they want to, and have their own show and take it directly to YouTube if they want, and would probably do massive numbers, maybe make more money doing that than he would at ESPN. And he would also, it looks like there's been some issues, as a lot of people expected, as far as creative control and, you know, being filtered as to what he can and can't say and who he can and can't have on the show. There's been some back and forth there. He could take back control of what he does. And is that something that he's thinking about? I have no idea, but I would say that it's kind of like Kennedy right now. It's a great time for him to be a free agent.
He has bounced around quite a bit throughout his media career, so I would not be surprised at all. But I wonder if part of him is just looking at it going, yeah, game day's a massive deal, but they've got Saban now. Am I going to want to try to steal airtime from Nick Saban? I don't know if that's a factor at all, but is it possible that he could just be looking at the situation and going, hey, the NFL makes more sense?
Yeah,
And
perhaps.
because, his weekends are consumed by all the travel for college football. I like what you were saying about him kind of traveling and doing shows from different locations. That's what our buddy Josh Pate does. And I think he's had a ton of success doing that. I don't know what the NFL rights fees would look like for him to do something like that for the NFL, but maybe that's a more lucrative avenue for McAfee, is leaning more into the NFL side of things than the college football side. But I don't know. That guy seems to be able to kind of do whatever he wants. So I am interested to see what ends up happening.
And that's, you're right. He's able to do what he wants, which is a great position to be in. It's where we all want to be. And I wonder if there's part of him that says, I don't want to do anything. And I just want to do my weekly show. And, whenever you're working the week, like, it's a lot of work. I mean, it feels like you just show up and have fun on set, but there's a lot to it, man. There's production meetings, there's preparation, there's a lot that goes into it. Maybe he wants his weekends back to some degree, to be a fan of the sport a little bit more, and maybe travel and go to some games. And I don't know. He's got all those options available to him.
You mean it's possible he doesn't want to have to memorize some random facts about Appalachian State's team and then have to be able to rip it all off up there on the set. I mean, because that's what you do. Nobody on the planet, even the biggest diehard, even the hardest working people, can dive into the film on all of these teams. It's impossible. There's not enough time. So you use your resources and you get a couple talking points about certain teams, but you have to repeat that and sound like you know what you're talking about, sound like you're dialed in front of a massive audience, and that takes a lot of effort. Not everyone can be Charles Barkley, okay?
No, I think I may have mentioned this on the podcast before. Um, I don't know if it's the last time OU was on, like they had a game day game, or it it was fairly recently that we were going into a weekend where we were going to be on game day, and Desmond Howard's people, I don't know who it was, reached out and wanted like some information about Oklahoma, what to expect in the game coming up for the weekend. So, like, to your point, it's like, give me some points and read them off as we go on, because you're covering like 50 different games every weekend.
I do know for a fact that when OU's got, let's call it a headlining game, a lot of broadcast teams tuning into this podcast. Know that for a fact. And I've received text messages like, hey, thank you so much. You guys get right to talking about football, what you're watching, some of the key matchups. They're like, we couldn't ask for any more than what you guys put out for some of those game previews. So the broadcast
that's
teams,
what we're talking about. All we're
yeah,
doing is our own homework, right?
yeah, the broadcast teams have found us, Ted. We
That's good.
we help them out.
That's
But
good.
I'm interested to see what happens with McAfee. He's one of the biggest stars in sports media, so it'll be a big deal no matter what he decides.
I agree. I agree.
Who do you have as your loser of the week?
Lincoln Riley, University of Southern Cal head football coach. Um, I, I don't know. Maybe it was his doing. Maybe it was him really lobbying the athletic director to drop the Ole Miss home and home non-conference. But that was announced. There no more for Ole Miss and USC. Was it 25 and 26? I believe they were going to play non-conference. And it just came out a couple of weeks ago that they lobbied really hard to get LSU to drop the game that they've got to start off this season. They're playing in Las Vegas as well. It's not like they're going on the road to LSU. And it's got a lot of people talking about Lincoln Riley. And again, I don't know that it was him that was trying to get the athletic director to drop the series, but I think it's a massive missed opportunity for Lincoln Riley. You got to imagine, like, the power dynamics in college football, it changes, right? It's almost seasonal. You'll go through periods where the Big Ten and Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State will dominate the landscape, and then there was a time where with the Big 12 with Nebraska and Kansas State and Oklahoma, and Texas dominated the landscape, and USC, and they had their run, 04, 05, that time. But USC has not been relevant on a year-by-year basis since then. It's been 15 years or more since they've had sustained success. They've had one-off years where maybe they'll go win the Rose Bowl or take the Pac-12 title, but they haven't been consistently relevant since any of the kids that are at a recruitable age have been alive. And this is your chance to go into the belly of the beast where, let's face it, the largest amount of college football talent lives in the southeastern part of the United States. Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, Florida. That's where more talent comes than anywhere else in the country. And he has a chance to go play Ole Miss, a team that I personally believe is elevated and and ranked or talked about or um, given coverage well above what their history and what their wins even recently are worth. You're not going in to play Alabama in a home. You're going to play Ole Miss, which comes with the top 10 ranking for Ole Miss, but not a top 10 consistent type of football team like an Alabama or a Georgia. I think it was like the perfect opportunity. He's got 3 5-star kids right now from the Southeast. I think Georgia committed. And on the day that they announced the Ole Miss series is no longer, one of them, I think he's the number 1 or number 2 defensive lineman in the country, decommits. He's from Georgia. Now, does that have something to do with it? I'm not sure, but being able to play in that area, I would think would be a huge advantage in recruiting kids from Georgia. Hey, we're going to be playing in Ole Miss for your family to come see it. I just think it's a massive missed opportunity for Lincoln. And not only he's turning, or they, I don't know that it's him, they're turning what could be a massive positive. It doesn't go to neutral that you just miss out on the positive. You're getting dragged negatively by everyone in the country now. It's bad look.
No doubt. I mean, it is well documented. They wanted to get out of the LSU game. Now well documented. They've canceled the Ole Miss series. The narrative that Lincoln Riley ran from the SEC, it's only gaining steam.
Yeah.
And that is, and some people may not think that matters, but that message is out there. And you mentioned it, Isaiah Gibson, 5-star edge, 6'5", 260, Warner Robins, Georgia, decommits. Number 1 edge in the 2025 class. Mm-hmm. That just happened to happen on the same day. The reason I think it is a miscalculation is I don't think Ole Miss is going to be very good in 2025. They have gone all in on putting together the roster that they've got in 2024. They think they are a playoff team. They have spent some serious NIL cash to bring in transfers. And it's kind of natural to assume that there's going to be a bit of a drop-off. Ole Miss has traditionally not been a program that just reloads and reloads and reloads. It just hasn't gone that way. Now, maybe they're able to raise the same NIL money next season and pay a bunch of guys and do it that way. That's possible. But I feel like USC just canceled a game where Ole Miss may lose a bunch of these good players that they're playing big time money for. They're going to go to the NFL, and it's not going to be easy for them to replace them. So that's the part of it where I don't understand it.
Yeah. But even if they don't fall off next year, you're not going to get to where you want to be by dodging good quality football games that you have an opportunity to go win. Like you can't snake and like find your way to the top. You're going to have to beat really good football teams. And I know that their schedule is going to be more difficult as they've gone to the Big Ten. But at least from what I know, Michigan isn't dodging Texas. Michigan isn't dodging Oklahoma. Teams are playing big non-conference games. It's what the networks want. And like, that was the other thing to me that I thought was interesting is like, what do the network partners say about, I mean, that's a potential top 10 matchup in the non-conference. What do they say about them dodging that game? That's taking premium content off the board for them.
Can't be pleased. It's one thing if it's 4 or 5 years down the road, but I'm with you, man. That would be next season. That is not a good look. It feels like USC is running from the smoke. That's how it feels. I don't think anyone interpreting it any other way than that.
No, it feels like USC is running from the smoke on the heels of running from the smoke with LSU and on the heels of Lincoln Riley being tagged as running from the smoke from the SEC. That's what it feels like.
It's a lot of running.
It's a lot of running. And he has already been suffering from all kinds of, the narrative on Lincoln Riley has gone in just a couple of years from being top notch. No one second guesses anything Lincoln Riley does. It's an absolute home run to USC. Best hire they could have made. Smartest man in college football. Getting all of the benefit of the doubt on everything. Like that has turned completely the opposite direction in just a couple of years. It's wild how the narrative has turned so quickly on Lincoln Riley. Now, I don't think that takes away with how good of a football coach he is and how good I think their offense is going to be really good. If they're able to land the recruiting class that they currently have committed, it's packed full of defensive studs, packed full of guys. And from talking to some people, the hire he made for the defensive coordinator position is really, really good. And like, there's some things that are looking up there, but the narrative has really been negative on Lincoln Riley, and it's going to hurt him in recruiting.
Don't want to have that out there. You do not want to be the school or the coach that is known to be a little scared of some competition. That is very much out there about him right now. It just is.
Oh, and you know how college recruiting goes. Any little bit of weakness or opportunity you give to other coaches that are battling against you on the recruiting trail, they're going to take it and run with it. Just absolutely run with it.
No doubt. All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But first, gentlemen, we got to groom ourselves, right? And our friends at Manscaped have everything you need for all of your grooming needs. Head over to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free shipping with code OKBreakdown. As you can see, beard guy. And I just started using the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. It's the complete beard maintenance kit for all us bearded guys out there. This all-in-one kit comes with a beard hedger, that's Manscaped, most advanced beard trimmer, as well as shampoo, conditioner, oil, and balm for your beard. It also comes with a brush, comb, and scissors so you can style your beard and mustache. Thing is fancy, you guys. It's really fancy. Now, if you aren't blessed with a luxurious beard, you can get some of the Boxers 2.0. They were designed with a simple mission to make the most comfortable boxers using perforated performance fabric for extra breathability. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code OKBreakdown at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code OKBreakdown.
And head to opolisclothing.com for our podcast merchandise and the best OU gear out there. That's OPOLIS clothing.com. Use promo code TED, TED, for 10% off. That's opolisclothing.com. Use promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off.
My winner of the week, the Boston Celtics. Best team by a large margin in the regular season. They steamrolled through the Eastern Conference to get to the finals. Yeah, a bunch of teams they played had guys injured, but injuries are part of the game. And then they steamrolled the Dallas Mavericks to win the title. A dominant performance in Game 5 to win the franchise's 18th championship. Ted, pretty impressive stuff from the Boston Celtics. That the NBA Finals did not feel particularly close at all.
Crazy, wasn't it?
It was boring. It was boring, right?
The conference finals and then the NBA finals were a pretty massive letdown. Which, sometimes some years that's going to happen. But don't let that get in the way of how good the Boston Celtics were. And they put it together. Really good team, well coached. I didn't know hardly anything about Missoula going into this deal, and
Oh,
I've learned a lot from him and been down the rabbit hole of press conferences and in coaching huddles and stuff. And I absolutely love the guy now. So if the NBA
you
finals,
love the guy that likes to get choked to nearly where he passes out. Yeah. Oh, I'm shocked. He is a psycho, and I love it. Some of his interviews he's done on podcasts are, dude, they are incredible.
yeah, I didn't know anything about him previously. So, and there's probably a lot of people out there like me that have probably learned more about some of these players, throughout the players and coaches throughout the final. So that was accomplished because it is. Isn't it a weird time in the NBA right now? There's like a massive like star power transition going on. Um, I would say like to the casual like non NBA fan that may tune in for the playoffs and for the finals just to kind of see what's happening. There's a lot of names that just aren't like big. It's not LeBron James and Kevin Durant and Steph Curry names that are there. So I think it was an introduction to a lot of those guys, and it may take a little bit for this new carousel of young stars to gain, like, because the NBA was like the greatest soap opera on the planet for like a decade with all of the drama and moving pieces and all of that. And we're going to have to get some character development, I guess, so to speak, from some of the young stars.
I do think that, free agency and all that stuff and the drama, like you're talking about, it's become such a large part of the NBA to where it's almost taking away now from the on court product. And I think
That
the
makes
NBA
sense.
needs to address that because
Yeah.
for whatever reason, the NBA finals, I saw a lot of people saying like it didn't feel nearly as big as it
Big.
should, nearly as important as it should. So I think Adam Silver and the decision makers in the league, I think they need to put a lot of time and a lot of resources into making the focus of the league like what is going on the court. But people love the drama, man. Ultimately it's an entertainment product. But yeah, I think that's something the league has to address.
Kind of like um kind of like Kennedy, kind of like Pat McAfee. It may be a really good time for Shaq and Chuck and those guys to be free agents. It, I don't know what's going to happen with that deal, but I I think the coverage of the finals did not, as you point out, did not feel big. And I heard more, and I guess I didn't necessarily have a problem with it. And maybe that's the thing is I didn't tune into it because I wasn't interested, but there was more conversation about the coverage of the finals than I think I've ever heard. And it wasn't good.
No. And ESPN's biggest mistake was not having Tim Legler be a big part of it. I think he is, and it sounds like he's about to be a free agent too.
Yeah.
Now, I would anticipate ESPN retaining him, but it does seem that I think he is the best in the business when it comes to breaking down some of the key plays, what's going on in the game, and putting it in easy, understandable language for the common fan. So I was a little disappointed that he wasn't part of the coverage really at all. Now he's on Sports Center with SVP, and he does an incredible job breaking down all that stuff. But I think it was a miss by ESPN ABC to not have him there to drive a basketball conversation. Like when I watch a pregame show or a halftime show as a sports guy, I want to feel like I'm learning something. I just I don't want people to just yell. Like I want to feel like I am like someone's teaching me something, point some things out I can watch for the game. Like that's what I want as a, kind of a casual basketball fan. And they're just There wasn't much of that going on.
You know, you want it to be entertaining and informative,
Right.
and what that balance is, it just kind of depends, right? On a given night, that's what makes the group at TNT so good. On a given night, it could be all entertainment and not much substance, and then on another night, it could be really serious and there's a ton of substance there and a ton of breakdown, and it's hard to replicate that. It really is, and it's dramatically apparent how difficult it is to replicate.
Yeah. A couple thoughts on the finals in general. Don't be distracted by Jason Tatum's weird post game behavior, like just basically just plagiarism of multiple lines. I don't know what his strategy was there, but he was really good in Game 5. I didn't think he played particularly well in the series, but the fact that they were able to handle business so easily with him not being great, I think it just speaks to how solid that team is. Drew Holiday is an absolute dog. Like the guy's just a winner. Give me that guy on my squad any day. Was happy for Jaylen Brown. I, I I think he made things tough on Luka throughout the series. Thought he was a deserving NBA Finals MVP. Derek White, pretty unfortunate to chip your teeth when you're about to take all the pictures after winning the title. Just kind of a bad break, but he was awesome. I Luka will catch some heat for not being great in the series and for the series not being that competitive, but that dude is so good, and he was the reason they were there. So that's just it. It is what it is. But as a Thunder fan, my main takeaway from the finals is just you can build it around a couple guys, right? Boston, they built this thing around Brown and Tatum, and they had some ups and downs, man. I mean, they went through it. They had some disappointments, but kind of stayed the course, building around those two guys, assembling pieces around those two guys. Now they spent a ton of money on their roster this year, and the Thunder are probably going to have to do that at some point to maximize the talent of this team. But when you consider having Shea and J-Dub and Chet and what the future could look like for the Thunder building around those guys, I think the way that Boston has gone about it, it's a pretty solid blueprint of what you can accomplish, and that you don't have to be overly drastic in the moves that you make. You just have to have a little patience. So I was I was really excited to see a team with two kind of homegrown stars that they built around. They stayed the course and they were able to reach the mountaintop. Man, I think it was, I don't know, as a Thunder fan, I came out more excited about the Thunder that Boston won. I don't know if that's strange, but it's just how I felt.
It does. It At least for me, it does make me feel like, even though it was a dominant win by Boston, it really was. I guess I don't know. They've got a bunch of really good players, but I didn't feel like there's one guy or two guys that are like LeBron James dominant or Steph Curry dominant. Really good players, but it doesn't feel like the league is going to be theirs because of how good they are until another star of that caliber comes around. I just didn't feel that way. I felt like the star power with Oklahoma City over the next couple of years could be pretty equal to that. Now, role players and all that stuff, obviously has to come along, but maybe it's dumb of me, but I'm kind of like you. I feel closer to a championship after watching Boston destroy the team that beat us
I
somehow. I don't know. It's weird.
Well, it sure would have been nice if PJ Washington shot the three the way that he did in the finals. It really, the way he did against every other team that they played in the playoffs, other than Oklahoma City, that would have been nice. That would have been nice. What the hell, PJ Washington? Damn it! But you look at the Thunder and you look at Boston. Shea's better than Tatum. I think J Dub has, you know, every ability every ability to be a better player than Jaylen Brown. And then I think Chet has the potential to be better than Porzingis. The future's incredibly bright in Oklahoma City. It just
And
you just never know if it's all going to come together.
yeah, and you also look at the path of Boston, and we talked about this as the playoffs were starting, and it's the old NBA narrative that you kind of have to earn it, and that's the path that Boston went down, right? You just kind of have to take your take your licks and then come back and improve, and then before long you're going to be there to hoist the trophy. So it does make me feel better about it. Let me ask you about this, because talking about kind of the star power and in the NBA, Luka, do you think he's really going to have to address like his antics about how he carries himself?
I
mean, and
I
I
would
know
hope
that
so.
he's not the only star that complains to the officials. I mean, that's not the case,
But
but
he's the worst.
he's the worst. And like, there's also, I think NBA fans, you have to earn your bitching to the officials to some degree. Like, you go win a championship and or a couple championships. Okay, people understand that you get the star treatment, right? And you complain to officials, and then you get the call. But for a guy that most people would say hasn't done anything yet to act that way, I think it is a turnoff to people that are maybe tuning in to for the first time to see some of these teams play. It's hard to watch.
He's hurting his brand.
Yes.
There's just no denying he's one of the what top 2, top 4 best players in the world. He's incredibly skilled. He's so much fun to watch. But he is hurting his brand. He's hurting his popularity by the way that he carries himself out there. Now, like the yelling and screaming and cussing, I like that. I like a guy that plays with fire like that. But the constant complaining, I think it's taking away from his game. Because I mean, your body's like a car, man. You only have so much gas in the tank. And I think he spends way too much of his energy complaining. And over a long season and a long playoffs, like that adds up. It takes a toll. And I honestly think that not only does it take a toll, like it spreads throughout the team. When your guy constantly bitches like that, I think you become an entire team of guys that bitch. And I don't think that's a good formula to go and win a championship. They made the finals. Like they deserve a ton of credit, but I don't know, man. I just don't think that's not what I believe in when it comes to leadership, team building, like all that stuff. I just don't think your main guy could just complain that often. It's insane.
I know. It's not a good look, not
And
good
it
for the
makes me
league.
appreciate the Thunder even more because we don't have those guys.
I know. I thought what Windhorst said was spot on.
Took the
It's
flamethrower out.
boy, he did. He did. But I think he said what everyone was kind of thinking. It had been a really big talking point throughout the playoffs, which is weird. I mean, I've seen NBA players bitch to officials forever, but I've never heard it be like a prime narrative all the way through the playoffs for one guy. Like, that's not good. That's bad.
It's yeah. Yeah. All right, my loser of the week. Thought about going with Landon Donovan. Oh boy. US soccer legend. Listen. I will always appreciate everything he did, playing soccer for this country. But that angle of his hair on the Euros coverage, that's it. What was he thinking? And I saw the text message exchange with his former teammate, Mike McGee, where basically Landon Donovan said I had a hair procedure. I was told it wouldn't be on camera. How could you think that's not going to be on camera, dude? What in the world? just an all-time profile, just side shot of someone working on television. An absolute all-timer.
When I saw the picture the first time and saw people like making fun of it and laughing, I was like, man, like he had to have had like a
Brain
brain
surgery.
surgery. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, I mean, there's probably something going on here, but there's really not. I, I don't know who gave him the advice. Maybe it wasn't on camera from the front view, but I that is just insane to me that he would go on a nationally televised broadcast looking like that.
The Euros are a massive deal.
I know.
Millions and millions of people watch it.
Yeah.
Why I what I don't understand is why didn't you schedule the procedure way earlier? I've got no
Or
problem. Listen, I
later.
will go on record saying if I start losing my hair, I'm getting it handled. Now, I don't think that is in our future. Got some pretty thick hair. But if we start developing some thinness, I have no problem addressing the situation. I am very much pro use the technology. I don't want to lose my hair, okay? I just don't. Right? If I'll cross that bridge if I come to it. So I no judgment on the transplant situation. But the timing is just absurd. You know you're about to work this massive tournament. You gotta schedule this thing earlier, man. Like what is he doing?
I don't know what he's doing. Save your money. Save looking like an idiot. Just go buy a razor and shave it. It'd be the best thing he ever did. Never worry about his hair again. Spend time thinking about it, worrying about it. Oh my God, what do people think of my hair? Oh my gosh, am I losing more? Can you see it from back here? What about this angle? Dude, just get a razor. Now everyone in the world knows is you went on a national broadcast, worldwide broadcast, looking like you have the mange. I don't know how you thought that was going to be okay. They said, oh, well, no, it won't show up in the camera shot. What? Have you seen what your head looks like? I thought he had an aneurysm and had surgery. I felt bad for the guy. Unbelievable.
Oh, our bald champion, Ted Lehman. Love it. My loser of the week, Rory McIlroy. We haven't had the chance to
Oh,
talk about the US Open, Ted. Now it was one thing. Watching him miss those putts, it's painful. I
have
mean,
you seen all the videos where the hole is like massive and he's standing there missing it?
all right, missing those putts, yeah, just it's brutal. But him just taking off, peeling out of that parking lot without talking to anyone, that was just out of all the guys that I thought would respond that way. Rory McIlroy is like way down on the list of the golfers I thought would respond that way. And I get it was painful, but man, he's the number one meme on the internet right now. Those pictures of him watching Bryson finish. He's got his hands on his hips with the other one he's like bent over on the table. He is it's just not it's not a fun week for Rory McIlroy. And I releases his statement. He's like, I need some time off. I'm not
Yeah.
playing until next month at the Scottish Open. I just man, rough stuff, Ted.
No, it's brutal. And I can root for Rory. I think he's really exciting to watch. The way he plays is aggressive, and he was right there, and it had been such a grind for him. He's been clawing his way back. How long has it been? 10 years?
10 years.
10 years since he won a major, and he's had some ups and downs along the way, had to reinvent his game and go back to the drawing board several times. And it was there. It was in his hands. And that stat, he was what, 496 of 496 leading up to that, inside 4 feet or 3 feet, whatever it was. is just incredible. And it's, I'm not saying they're easy putts. Like, Lord knows I wouldn't make them, but that, those misses were the pressure of the last 10 years culminating into the back nine on Sunday is what that was, and was not great to watch. But I will say, I've recently become a somewhat of a fan of Bryson DeChambeau, and I was happy to see him win it. I thought that was awesome.
The clip of him. This is one thing about DeChambeau. He's become like the most likable person in golf over the last couple months.
I started watching his YouTube channel, and it totally changed my perspective on him. He's still an incredible nerd, and he's the way he handles some things is weird, but I'm with you.
But him doing it was not an accident that he showed up when the guy from the Golf Channel was trying to replicate his shot out of the bunker. He knows that guy has been getting millions and millions and millions of views on social media. So he shows up, and then the guy hits it like within a foot, which was so cool. But he understands the entertainment aspect of golf. And I don't think anyone is doing it better than him. Like him running around the trophy, high-fiving people, letting people touch it. Like the guy went from a guy that we all made fun of for the, the science and the goofy hat and then the bulking up and then all that stuff to the most likable guy in golf that absolutely gets it and gets that he's an entertainer. And it's kind of hard to understand how he's become so popular so quickly. But I mean, I was rooting for him. I didn't care that Rory fell apart. I was rooting for DeChambeau because I appreciate the fact that he knows how important the fans are and he's leaning into it. Is it completely authentic? Does it feel a little forced sometimes? Sure, but who cares? The guy has made a concerted effort to give back to golf fans. And the guy's killing it, man. He's killing it.
I think that's well said. And I imagine other golfers and probably other stars from other sports are going to look at the dramatic turnaround that he's had and realize pretty quickly that, it's not that difficult to fist bump a bunch of people between green to tee after a hole, or to stop and sign a handful of autographs or a bunch of autographs, or to take the trophy out and let people, take a picture with it or touch it, or put a YouTube channel together and play 9 holes with a pair of kids clubs and, play against, like, it's really easy. And I imagine a lot of people are going to see that and say, a little bit of effort, massive reward.
It's no one will ever replace Tiger Woods, right? He's always going to be the most popular guy. But am I crazy? Bryson DeChambeau is the most popular guy in golf right now, right?
It's hard for me to say because it's not my world, but
that's how it feels to me.
Yes, from someone that kind of observes from the edges of it, he's gone within like a year or less for being one of, maybe not the most hated, but people just had not a good feeling about him overall, or maybe no feeling at all, to a guy that pretty much everyone to some degree or another was rooting for to see him play. It's a big turnaround, and you may be right. He may be that guy right now.
That bunker shot was insane. I mean, my gosh.
What's funny is, I said I watch his YouTube channel, and he was playing against, I think this guy's another YouTuber, and I think he was playing left-handed actually, and he is a great left-handed golfer, which is, I guess, not shocking. He plays great with like the old oak, hickory clubs and little kids clubs, and he played great left-handed. But whoever he was playing against had a shot almost exactly like that. And the guy's like, "What do you think?" And he said, I'd hit it like a big explosion shot. It's this for this yardage. And it was the exact same yardage. And the kid was like, "I think I'm going to try and pick it clean with the 60-degree." And he's like, "All right, good luck." And turns around and walks off. So it was funny to see that he had talked about that shot on his YouTube channel. It's pretty cool.
Everyone likes Bryson DeChambeau now. What a world we live in.
What a world. Crazy.
Birthday shout outs. Welcome to the world, Boone White.
Happy first birthday to Jackson Stone Baluk. Baluk?
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 I'm going Baluk. B-A-L-U-K. Baluk.
Jackson Stone Baluk and Madeline Pearl Baluk.
Happy second birthday to Ivy Winter.
Happy 17th birthday to Riley Clark.
Happy 34th birthday to Matthew Brown.
Happy upcoming 38th birthday to Chad McDaniel.
Happy 40th birthday, the big 4-0, to Carrie Bailey.
Happy birthday to Liz Davis.
Happy 16th anniversary to Matt and Chelsea Ketcher.
Happy 44th anniversary to Steve and Kathy Melton.
And shout out to Dan Stern for battling through his emergency quintuple bypass. That a boy, Dan.
Nice.
Hope you have a speedy recovery. And also, my son turns 3 tomorrow. Happy birthday, Cam. Love you, buddy.
Happy birthday, Cam. Awesome.
On that note, episode 432 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop on Sunday. Just a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Have an awesome weekend. Until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening, and do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.